All right, so we are live here on the Sports General Special Edition. It's your boy Jason Vaughn, and then
And
we
I'm
have Mr.
Seaboss.
What's up, Seaboss? How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing quite all right. How are you?
Hey, I'm shooting the breeze. We are, of course, missing the special guy and icon to the show, Mr. Josh Unger to the max. So, my friend, if you out there, safe travels. But hey, man, we got a lot to cover today. What's something special that happened today?
Yeah, we finally got the final verdict on the Deshaun Watson situation. He will be suspended 11 games. His first game back will be Week 13 in Houston. Yeah, what a interesting coincidence there, Commissioner.
It's such a sham. It's like,
oh, I know. No, they're only doing it to boost the ratings because the Deshaun Watson revenge game against the Texans would sell well.
that's all they're doing, man. It's all anything with the NFL is always going to be something that has something to do with the ratings. Something just really money and ratings. That's all that the NFL care about, and this is another perfect example of it.
Conspiracy time. That's why there was that power outage at Super Bowl 47, I believe it was, because the 49ers were getting their butts handed to them at the time of the power outage. And what we're thinking happened was when it went out, it's like, when it comes back, the Niners are going to mount a furious comeback, and we're going to get more people coming back to the Super Bowl.
It's just everything feels fixed, and I'm surprised that fixed is not national fixed league. You know what I mean? But everything is always fixed in the NFL.
As one of my good friends from high school told me, he knew the NFL was fixed because how would they always get the newspaper headlining and the rings for each Super Bowl that night if they didn't know who the winner was?
Exactly, man. It's like everything just feels like it's a certain playbook that Roger Goodell is following, making sure that they are hitting all their checks and balances. And again, this latest suspension appeal is nothing short but up Roger Goodell's playbook. And the original ruling by Sue Robinson was 6-game suspension, no fines associated. And then the league said that they were looking more for a season because it was predatory behavior, quote unquote, from what Roger Goodell had to say. So with the latest appeal, do you think that the league got it right with this change?
I have mixed feelings about it because the 6-game suspension, if you're hiring a person to do a specific job and they do that job and they do their findings and they find out that it only should require 6 games, you kind of should probably listen to that person who you hired to do something. Even if you don't like it, I mean, it kind of was your idea in the first place to hire them.
I totally agree. The league voted on this when the new CBA came out. The Players Association as well as the NFL all came to an agreement collectively. Said this is how we're going to now handle certain arbitrary rulings, such as suspensions or penalties. And when the league sits down and rule or actually votes on this, agree to this, and then turn around and say, you know what, it's just not what we were looking for. So we're going to appeal and we're going to try a different avenue. And it's kind of like a slap in the face.
Right. And I also feel like the reason they went 11 games and not full season is to appease the Players Association, because the Players Association is done with full season suspensions. Rest in peace, Calvin Ridley.
Yeah. Unfortunately, see you next season, buddy. But Yeah, they are trying to lessen the blows per se for penalties, but when it's something that's non-violent such as this, it's really what Sue Robinson ruled in favor of. That fits the law per se. It's not more of an ethical or moral approach that the league was taking, which is, oh, this is predatory behavior, so we're going to come down with an iron fist. But in your rule book, it simply states that if it's not a violent act, it can't be a full season, and that's where we're at right now.
Yes. And Deshaun Watson himself originally also wanted 8 games and a $5 million fine, or it was the Players Association that voted on the 8 games, $5 million fine. So I kind of feel like this is kind of like a balance thing. It's like the league wants full season, but the Players Association want 8 games. Okay, we'll compromise in the middle and give 11.
Got to meet in the middle somewhere, basically. And that's how negotiations go. It's you're never gonna anytime you're in a negotiation, you're never gonna get what you truly want. You're gonna get, you're gonna hurt some, the other person's gonna hurt some, but you gotta kind of find that common ground, and that's what just recently took place. Now, how do you think this will impact the Cleveland Browns specifically now that we know who our quarterback is going into week 1? We know basically we have to depend on Jacoby Brissett for basically 11 games. How did this impact us now?
It depends on how well Jacoby Brissett can play game manager. Can he hand off the ball to Nick Chubb and make sure that Nick Chubb gets, how many ever yards out of the play? Can he make those short slant passes to Donovan Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper and Anthony Schwartz? What I don't think, because of how talented our skill positions are, I don't think a quarterback really affects where we are as concerning to like our run game and our short pass game. If you can throw a deep ball, can our receivers catch it? Well, maybe. That's up to the receivers.
So you kind of think, so in essence, if I'm understanding you correctly, you think this is just like, yeah, it sucks for the suspension, but given how our strengths in our other positions, mainly our skills positions, we should probably be able to weather the storm a little bit smoother than another team. Okay.
I think given what our, how many games that he's going to be suspended, so our record with his suspension should at least be, I want to say 6-5-ish.
Okay. And that's fair. Because I was actually talking to my father earlier today, and we were discussing, and happy belated birthday, Pop, if you're watching this. So we were talking about basically the ruling that's been handed down. What did this mean for us on paper, right? And I got to be honest, man, at first, I was thinking the same along the lines as you, like 6-5, probably 7-4, right? But
yeah,
I'm going to name some teams to you, and we're going to play either a win or a loss. Okay. So we're going to see everybody in our division, right? So we're going to see the Bengals, we're going to see the Ravens, and we're going to see the Steelers. Of those 3, what do you think our record could potentially be out of those 3?
So we see them each twice within the suspension. Well, no, we see the Bengals once within the suspension.
I think we see all of the teams once, except for Baltimore. I'm not sure of Baltimore, but I know we see the other 2 teams. Yeah. So,
I think we can beat the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
I think Joe Burrow, and this is going to be the hottest take of the century here, I think Joe Burrow continues his bad luck streak against the Brown and Orange. I think Joe Burrow still can't beat the Browns.
Ooh, I hope you're right on this one.
And I hate saying that as a fan of Joe Burrow, but I saw a tweet on the whole suspension thing today from a Bengals fan, basically, shit talking the Browns, and I kind of wanted to go after him and be like, why are you talking when your team is 1-6 against Baker Mayfield?
Yes.
Or 1-7.
That's very true.
Like, the Bengals have just. I mean, yes, you made a Super Bowl and all, and a huge respect to that, but if you're a quarterback, your star quarterback is 0-3 against the Cleveland Browns, maybe refrain from talking smack against the team.
I want to pipe down just a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel that. So if I'm reading you, what, about probably 2-1, you thinking, or 1-2?
I still think that the Ravens, with a healthy Lamar Jackson, are just out of reach.
Okay.
Lamar Jackson is an incredible quarterback, and if he can stay healthier than, your Michael Vicks and your Cam Newtons, then he should be fine. I mean, also, I got to have this spot-on prediction because, Michael Vick got his first big injury in his 4th season. Cam Newton got his first big injury in his 4th season. And I was like, all right, I have a feeling that the same thing is going to happen to Lamar Jackson. Lo and behold, Lamar Jackson gets hurt in his 4th season. I was just following up on trends, and he got hurt, and I'm like, why does every dual threat QB have to get hurt in their 4th season?
It sure do feel that way, don't it?
It does. And dual threat quarterbacks, they're supposed to have that pass run thing, and the run part can hurt, is what usually gets them injured. When you're scrambling in the pocket and you try and get out and you get one of those big defensive linemen pancaking you, that's going to hurt. Especially if you're, a quarterback like a Lamar Jackson, like a Cam Newton, like a Michael Vick, who isn't that big. If you get hit by a defensive lineman like a Myles Garrett, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt.
It's going to stink a tad.
Yeah, no.
Now,
it's just going to happen.
It's part of the business. Now, outside of the AFC North, so going back to the prediction game, we play the Chargers.
I think we lose. I don't think we can win that one. Even with Baker Mayfield, even with Baker Mayfield dropping 40, we still couldn't beat the Chargers.
Yeah, and it just seemed like each year Herbert is getting better and better, and it's a lot of analysts that's predicting him to be, if not top 2, top 3 quarterback in the NFL this year. So he's on a whole different stratosphere right now.
I also have him in the top 3. I think it's going to go Josh. I think it's going to go Josh Allen. It's going to go Josh Allen. It's going to go Patrick Mahomes, and then it's going to go Justin Herbert.
I'm with you on that. And speaking of Josh Allen, we also see the Bills during the suspension time frame. Okay.
Yeah.
That's 4 losses right there.
That is 4 losses, but I think our game against the Bills is going to be closer because as I've seen in the past few seasons, they've really gotten hurt by the run game.
Mm-hmm.
Their run defense, they're adding Von Miller, but he's not really the same Von Miller that stopped Cam Newton in 2015. He's a different Von Miller. He's been through injuries after injury after injury. I think that the run defense just isn't that good they're not going to be able to contain Nick Chubb as well as they'd hope to.
Yeah, he's on the dead end of his career, it seems, and which is
Yeah.
kind of a head scratcher. Buffalo offered him reportedly 120 million, I believe, with 40 of that guaranteed, I believe, this
Huh.
off season, which is weird because again, he's like I want to say 33, 33 or
About
34.
yeah, he was
Yeah,
drafted in 2011, so he'd be going
yeah,
into about his I want to say 11th season ish.
yeah, and he's. I mean, the last time he played the full season, I really what about 3 4 years ago it seems. So
Yeah, he's been constantly injured. He did just win a Super Bowl with the Rams after being traded there midway through the season.
yeah, this
So,
is going to be interesting. It'll be
oh
very
yeah.
fascinating. Now another game, which I don't know how this one is going to go, but the Buccaneers. It's going to be a tough one.
Oh, we gotta face Brady and the
We do.
Bucks without Deshaun Watson.
So as you can see, this game is starting. It went from I'm optimistic to I'm nervous. It's just like if you're driving a car and don't have no gas in it, and you just pass a gas station, and you're like, I think I can make the next exit, and doubt is
Oh,
really
you
starting to
don't
creep
wanna.
in.
Yeah, you don't want to risk that. I would not take that risk. I would stop at that gas station and I would fill up.
You might have to
Yeah,
call
it's gonna
AAA.
take a Yeah, it's gonna take a couple minutes off of my ETA, maybe like 10 at most. But I'm trying to get there without any issues. So I'm gonna stop at that gas station. I'm gonna fill up.
Go fill
I'm
up. You go play
I'm
that
worried
game.
about the Buccaneers. I'm worried about the Buccaneers, but they have taken huge hits on their defense.
They have. Absolutely.
So, yes,
They're
their
not the
offense
same
is
Buck.
great.
They're not the same
It's not
Bucks.
the same Buccaneers that won the 2020
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes and the seemingly unstoppable Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Should have been the
It's
Browns in that Super Bowl.
it's gonna be a grind, man. It's really no cute way to say that one. It's gonna
I
be a
think
struggle.
I think our best streak is going to be early on in the season when
Hmm.
when we face the Panthers, the Jets, the Steelers. I forget who we face in Week 4.
Falcons.
The Falcons. Oh, we're
Yeah.
easily going to beat them. Marcus Mariota. A lot of people seem to
At
remember
Atlanta.
him in Atlanta. Last time I saw the Browns play in Atlanta, it was a last-second field goal kick to win it, and that was 2014.
Mm-hmm.
But their roster, I think every person on that Falcons team is gone now.
Yes, I think they. Yeah,
Because
yeah. Because
Matt
Matt
Ryan
Ryan
and
was number one.
Julio were the last two pieces from that team.
That is correct. Yeah, it's a complete new team now. And
Yeah.
they're definitely in rebuild mode for sure. And I was in Atlanta this past weekend. The fans down there, they seem to be optimistic, but I think they got a good 3 years.
I honestly, and I've seen a lot of people bringing this up, but I think Atlanta's going to be in contention for the first overall pick.
Right.
And I think that with that first overall pick, they're going to pick a quarterback, obviously Bryce Young, out of Alabama, unless it turns into a Joe Burrow situation where some other quarterback comes out of nowhere and just overtakes him as the first overall pick. Because in Joe Burrow's draft year, if I recall correctly, the original idea for the first overall pick was Tua
Yes.
Tagovailoa.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. Everyone was like, oh, we're taking for Tua. And then all of a sudden it turned into, oh, who's going to get Joe Burrow? Because he's been popping off recently.
And then Tua was coming off of that injury, that gruesome injury.
Yeah,
With
that was
that quilted.
Alabama's. Yeah, that was Alabama's first loss since what was it, 2015 or 16 against Auburn. That whole last second field goal block.
Mm-hmm.
It was Alabama's first regular season loss since that game, and it was to Auburn.
That's something.
Yeah.
And-
Seems
and-
like Nick Saban's big weakness is Auburn
yes.
on occasion.
And there was this one kid that just happened to, he wasn't on nobody's radar. He just happened to fall all the way down to the Chargers at number 6, who was Herbert.
Justin Herbert.
Yeah, so
He had himself a nice year at Oregon. I remember seeing highlights, and I was like, how is no one talking about this guy?
yeah,
right?
he slipped under the radar. He he wasn't the offense that he was running in college wasn't showing his true talents and assets, because they was more of at the time a run heavy team. And then when the Senior Bowl came, that's when he shot up the charts on everybody's draft boards and had a great combine workout, and the rest was history.
Yeah, and I remember a lot of people saying the same thing about Marcus Mariota from his time at Oregon, that he, kind of was like slipping under the radar and all that. And then 2015 or 2014-15, he pops off, gets Oregon to the national championship game. Of course, he would fall short to the Ohio State Buckeyes. But that was enough to propel him to the number 2 overall pick status, which didn't really work out.
Yeah, it didn't.
I mean, he had a really good, our first week matchup against Jameis Winston's Buccaneers. That was like, rookie versus rookie. It was the debut of the first overall pick versus the debut of the second overall pick. And I believe Mariota won that one. The Titans knocked off the Buccaneers that game. And then week 2, he went into Cleveland to face Johnny Manziel and the Browns. And he let Johnny Manziel drop 40 on him.
Hey, that's when he was a true legend in college in football, because Johnny Manziel couldn't be stopped by anybody, it seems.
Oh yeah, no. And then he gets to the NFL and he just became a team cancer and a party boy and all that.
Avid drug user.
Was he?
Yeah, it was photos of him with dollar bills rolled up, and for the viewers at home, I'm not really going into detail about what they do with that, but
I thought it was just alcohol. I thought he was just like avid boozing and all that.
No, he was avid fun haver. We'll just leave it at that.
Oh, but
he wasn't looking at the playbook.
Yeah. Then again, I'm pretty sure he watched more film than Jamarcus Russell.
Yes, and that's a whole nother discussion in itself.
We've already talked about that one when we were talking about that whole Kyler Murray situation.
Right. Now going back to that schedule, because again, I think we could agree we named 4 losses probably as of right now.
We've had 4 losses and we've named 5 or 6 wins.
Okay, so the Chargers, so I'm just go down the list and then we'll do it like that. So Carolina, we could beat them.
We can beat them unless Baker shows his true self, which we only saw once in Cleveland in 2020.
Well, I mean, if it's the turnover Baker, then we've seen him. His true self would definitely be great for us.
That is true.
But yeah, if he just happens to try too hard to like overdo it and try if he makes it more about him versus the Browns versus letting whatever the defense give him and actually going through his progressions and playing smart football. If he turns this into a him versus us, then they will lose and he will probably start
He
reaching.
will.
Yeah.
He will make those mistakes, and I actually have it in my predictions for that game. I have him making those mistakes. I have him throwing a couple picks to Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome and John Johnson, and even Grant Delpit gets a pick or two. But honestly, I think the big prediction is how many times is 95 going to sack Baker? Because that offensive line ain't going to hold.
It's definitely not going to hold. And I'm telling people, Myles Garrett's going to hurt that poor little boy.
Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney.
Yes, because
they're going to come on both sides. They're going to come on both sides, and they're going to not let him have a second to breathe.
I'm all for that. I'm all for it.
I agree. I think Baker basically demanding a trade instead of trying to earn his keep. You know,
that was the easy way out for sure.
He took the easy way out, and Myles Garrett and all those guys on the Browns defense are not going to let him live it down or forget it.
They're really not, and nor should they. But there's one guy that seems to, I guess, not forgot, but kind of buried a hatchet, and that's Odell Beckham, because there's recent reports that Odell was telling Baker, go ahead and basically go far, be great, and encouraging Baker, which was kind of, it seemed like he was speaking a different tune when he was in Cleveland, but now all of a sudden he's supportive of him, so it's a little different.
Was it Odell? I mean, it really wasn't Odell who started the whole Odell versus Baker thing. It was really Odell Beckham Jr.'s father, Odell Beckham Sr., who started the whole mess of, he's wide open. Well, it depends on who the play was designed around. A wide receiver could be wide open, but that's not the receiver the quarterback was told to throw to.
Correct. Yeah, but some will argue that, it was his father that did it, but his father probably chat with Odell, like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and do the nuclear option if it's with your blessing, and probably signed off on that, I would think. So, it's just kind of weird, man, that they are friends now, but Baker still got a lot to prove, and he's going to learn that while his time here in Cleveland, he took for granted, which was having one of the best offensive lines in football, having one of the best running attack in football, and he'll get some of that because
as long as McCaffrey stays healthy.
Absolutely, and that's the big word. As long as he's still healthy, and
he's also going to miss the wide receiving core that the Browns have always given him. We've always given Baker better receivers than we gave previous quarterbacks.
Yes.
Imagine how good like a Brian Hoyer would be if we gave him Odell Beckham Jr., Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones. He would be probably better than Baker.
Hey, that's wishful thinking for sure. He do have one person he's familiar with, who is Rashard Hollywood Higgins, or like I refer to him, Rashard Beachwood Higgins. But he has a lot of familiarity with him, and
I think those two. One thing in 2020, during the game against the Titans, I was watching with my dad, and it seemed like Higgins and Baker had a genuine connection. When Baker would throw to Higgins, Higgins would immediately be there to catch it. And 9 times out of 10, it usually resulted in a trip to the end zone.
Bizarrely, it did.
That
Let's see here. Yeah, bizarrely, it did. But man, it's just gonna be different, man. And I can't lie. I was a big avid Baker critic. Okay, and there's no secret about it. I used to look at the film and the eyes, like my eye test. I go off of what I see, and I seen a guy that was a little overwhelmed a lot, and he thought he was what he wasn't. And what I mean by that is he thought he was a little bit more athletic than he really was. He
yeah.
thought he was, which he always has a strong arm, but he thought he was probably a little bit more accurate than he really was. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was just a big learning experience for him, but it just happened to go the wrong way.
Yeah, and I was also like I will admit it, I was on the Baker train for a while. I thought he was going to be the future of quarterbacks in Cleveland, and by last season it kind of all started to unravel, and I was seeing him do that overthrowing thing that he would always do where he would overthrow the receiver. And you were saying he has an arm, but he thought he had the accuracy to mix it with.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Unfortunately, he did not have the accuracy bit, but if he can somehow find a way to manage that whole arm strength with accuracy thing, maybe he could make something of his time in Carolina. I just don't think it will be in his first season.
Yes, and I would guess I would say to a degree that this is technically a contract year for Baker because
Yes.
he's still playing on the last of his final year of his rookie contract, and if he's looking for a long term, it seems like if he doesn't get it right here, then he probably may not get another opportunity again.
Right. And that's the big thing is like if Baker doesn't do what he needs to do, if he doesn't get done what he needs to get done, who's to say that he gets a job in the league? Or if by next year he's going to be in like the XFL, the CFL, or even fan-controlled football, which is still a thing.
It should be very fascinating, man. And I know I keep saying that, but I mean, hell, what else can you say?
Hey, maybe we can finally get our Baker Mayfield versus Johnny Manziel QB quarterback duel.
If it's not in the CFL by that time.
If he's in fan control football, I'd like to see Manziel versus Baker Mayfield.
Hey, Baker probably would take him. Realistically,
I think Baker wins that matchup. Johnny Manziel was a one-trick pony. Baker at least had something else he could rely on when his primary thing kind of like people started to catch on to it. Because if you look at Johnny Manziel's first season in college to his second season, you'll notice that teams were more aware of his trickery in his second season, and that was a huge deterrent to him.
Mm-hmm. And make no mistake about it, Baker isn't a bum. Okay, Baker is solid. No, he's cool. He
was, for lack of a better term, mid at best.
Indifferent. However you want to code it, that's him. Like,
and don't take mid as a bad thing. A lot of people are like, "Oh, mid, that's a bad thing." It's not. It doesn't mean you're bad, but it also doesn't mean you're good. You're just in the middle.
It's like a progress report. There's excellent, satisfactory, unsatisfactory. He's satisfactory.
Yes.
Now, transitioning just a little, the NBA just released their schedules, and there's
There's
there's, there's a lot
a
going
lot
on.
to talk about. There's a lot to talk
Absolutely.
about. The Cavs are getting, I believe, according to what Josh told me, 9 nationally televised games. One of which one of which is against the Lakers, one of which is against the Clippers. We got one against the Grizzlies, I think, which I'm excited for that one because I have a interesting history with the Memphis Grizzlies. They were
What?
the first. They were the first ever team to draft up one of my players in 2K. Kind of a special place in my heart.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
I won a championship with them.
Uh, Try to win another title, man. I know fantasy football is coming up, so I'm excited about that. And we're
I
going.
came so close last year. I should have started Jamar Chase over Antonio Brown, but the projections told me one thing, and
Man,
to make even worse, that was the game where Antonio Brown quit.
I feel bad for you because you that was
Especially
one of the
because
best.
if I had put in Jamar Chase, I would have had 55 extra, or because he dropped 55 that game, Jamar Chase did. So
Yeah,
if I would have gotten those points, I would have won.
man, he was on another level that day. I happened to start him in all of my leagues except for one that I didn't have him, and unfortunately, I went against him and I lost that
Ah,
game. Yeah. But he basically made his stamp. He put his stamp on the league and put the league on notice that I'm here for years to come.
yes, yeah. Now, talking about fantasy football, who is your number one pick to go first overall in your
Ooh,
opinion?
that's a good question. I Man, it's so wide open this year. Usually, we always have like a clear cut favorite number one. You know, Christian
Yeah,
McCaffrey, AJ Peterson. Like each year, there's always that.
um,
It's a no brainer, right?
yeah.
This year, it's about I could think of shit, probably about 3 or 4 players that you really can't go wrong.
I'm not even considering running back for first overall. Like if you pick a running back, there's several options there. You can take, the guy that is apparently, according to like every fantasy expert, the hot commodity in JT for the Cardinals, Jonathan Taylor. But
Yes.
But if you're looking for good amount of points per game, switch it up and go wide receiver. There are 3 options at wide receiver I would recommend to any holders of the first overall pick. And those are Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson. I happen to have 2 of them on my fantasy team last year. I happen to have Kupp and Chase.
Really?
I didn't have Justin Jefferson. However, I had the other option for the Vikings, Adam Thielen, and he was also solid. But if you're going to go wide receiver, go for points, go for Kupp, go for Jay Jettas, go for Jamar Chase, and you'll get those points will come.
Now, if you are playing in a points per catch league, which I happen to be playing in, so that's like you get points basically for the running back that catches as well as the yards, right?
So the flex.
Yes, the flex is critical, right?
The
So
flex position, yes. So if we're looking purely at a running back that can receive, and I'm going to betray every Browns fan by saying this, but look at Najee Harris of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't like him as a Browns fan, but as someone who is looking at a fantasy league and is looking for points off of that flex, Najee Harris is a really good take for the flex position.
Hey, I'll tell you this. He's probably going to get the ball a good 30, 35 times a game. He's a workhorse.
Yes.
And yeah,
And
hey,
given the fact that the Steelers receiving core lost a huge piece in Juju Smith-Schuster, look for him to be wide open downfield on some of those long pass plays, no matter who's quarterbacking, whether it be Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, or if he's still on the team, because I've heard other teams have been looking into him. I don't know why they would, but Mason Rudolph.
yeah. And for those that don't just not familiar with Mason Rudolph, he was the quarterback that was on the other end of receiving a helmet present from Myles Garrett. So that was one of the most gruesome days in our rivalry. But that's who I always think of. Anytime you think of Rudolph, you're always going to think of Myles Garrett. They're kind of interchangeable.
Which is ironic given the fact that I went to an Aleshi's, which is a deli. I don't remember which one it was at, but I went to one, and they had the image of Myles Garrett hitting Mason Rudolph over the head, framed and signed by Myles Garrett.
That's correct. That's wild.
Yeah, but that just goes to show the rivalry between the Browns and Steelers. Despite what critics are saying, it's still alive. Just not in the way you think it is.
That is correct, my friend. And for those that wonder why I keep turning my head, so we are live on Facebook at the So What's the Catch Facebook page. We are on the Sports Generals YouTube channel and StreamYard, of course. So just make sure that everything is running fluidly. Since our brother isn't here, he's currently on vacation. Again, shout out to Josh. He usually handles that part, but we're gonna get through this.
Yeah. Going back on that, I would definitely take Najee Harris in the flex position. Mm-hmm. If you're looking for another running back in that flex position, I would consider J.K. Dobbins. I know he, was injured last year, but the Ravens are going to need every receiving option possible. They can't just leave everything on Mark Andrews. And I'm saying, look for J.K. Dobbins downfield. Lamar's going to hit him.
Yes, and he's going to hit him every chance he gets. That's just one of the natures of the beast.
Yeah.
Now I know, and we keep jumping all over, but we were transitioning over to basketball.
Yes.
Definitely want to tackle basketball. So it's a lot going on, man.
The schedule released.
The schedule released, and we got LeBron. He just signed a 2-year extension with the Lakers. Yep. What do this spell out from your end? What do you think that this signals that LeBron has indeed signed that 2-year extension with the Lakers?
What I'm thinking is his son, LeBron James Jr. or Bronny James or whatever, is going to come to the league, and LeBron, as I guess the GM of the Lakers, is going to do everything he can to make sure he plays on the same court, on the same team as his son.
Do you think that, the fact that he's been very, very clear about, I want to play with my son, I want to be the first son and father duo. Is this putting too much pressure on Bronny to hold his end of the bargain, basically?
I think it does, but at the same time, it doesn't. Bronny just needs to keep doing what he's doing. He's as of right now, I've heard a lot of people projecting him to go late first round, early second round.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the same beast that his father is. LeBron James was, even when he was drafted, was athletic, inhuman creation, to say.
He's one of a kind, man.
He
He don't
he is
they don't grow on trees.
no. LeBron James is the very definition of generational talent.
That is
And
true.
I will stand by those words. Everyone from the 2003 NBA draft is retired except for LeBron James.
Man, and he just recently almost averaged 30 a game. And
Oh yeah.
he's just on a different stratosphere, man. It shows how much he takes care of his body. How he is able to turn it on and off at the right times and at the wrong times in a game throughout the season, but you rarely see him out partying. He's training, and this is what the end result of that is being able to potentially play with his son, and he's holding his end. But Bronny's being set up to, like, if it doesn't go well, then this
Yeah.
could potentially hurt their father-son relationship, because you could have resentment starting to come, because I'm sure Bronny wants to show that I'm my own man.
Sorry, we are having, Jason is
There we
having
go.
some technical
Had a little minor
difficulties.
glitch.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I think Seaboss is currently technical issues, but we will get him back on track. Oh, there you go. All right. Yeah, we just had a little glitch.
Yeah, you were having technical issues on my end. I was having technical issues on your end.
Yes, that
But
is correct.
yes, I do agree that I think that if this situation doesn't go well, I think Bronny is going to resent his father, because at the end of the day, as an NBA player, the one thing you want to do is forge your own legacy and not be known for, being in the shadow of your own parent.
That is true. You want to be your own man.
Yes.
And if it's two ways to look at this, okay? One way, again, is, yeah, LeBron, he just wants to do something that hasn't been done before, which, that's absolutely, that would be phenomenal thing to do. But the part that a lot of us overlook is the Bronny portion, which is he's on the court. He's probably getting a lot of trash talking to him, because a lot of players are saying, hey, if it wasn't for your daddy, you wouldn't even be here in the first place. And then twofold, the owners that's going to take a gamble, they're going to, of course, want to fill the seats up with LeBron James and his just marketing empire. So it's like a win-win for them. Hey, we'll fill up the seats. We got LeBron, we got his son. We're the first to ever have this type of duel going on. But it's all because of LeBron. It's more of, we're not looking at Bronny and his skill set. We're just looking at the LeBron portion of it. And I think that's kind of unfair.
Like, if you look at the other two, like sons of NBA legends who play with LeBron, you're looking at Shaq's son, Shaquille O'Neal's son, which I forget his first name. Oh, Sharif O'Neal. He's actually with the Lakers now. Right. I believe he got drafted by the Lakers. And then you've got Dwayne Wade's son, Zaire Wade, coming into the league around the same time as Bronny.
Yes. And
they're not gonna be as looked at as Bronny, not only because they're not playing with their fathers, but because they play nothing like their fathers. They're trying to forge their own legacy. If you look at Sharif O'Neal, he looks nothing like Shaq. He's not a big hulking menace. He's this skinny, kind of more Kevin Garnett-esque type player.
Yeah, he could never. It's it's unfair. Like, and again, it's tough, man. It's tough because you have superstar parents and you have parents as Hall of Famers, and I'm just looking at this from all sports. I could really count on one hand as far as father was good, the sons were good, which is Ken Griffey's, of course.
Yes.
Um, and really after that, like, and we're
I
thinking about all sports.
I would throw another father son duo in there, this time from the NFL.
What's that?
As bad as his teams were, Archie Manning was still good.
Yes, absolutely.
And then you've got Peyton and Eli. Peyton's a Hall of Famer. Eli, I don't think he's going to Canton. Yes, he won 2 rings, but his entire career is summed up by his record. He's the only NFL quarterback I know to have retired with a .500 record.
I agree with you, man. However, and I got to play that guy, devil's advocate. I agree with you, but I think he's getting in. I think he's going to getting in on the Super Bowls, of course. But he's always been marginal, right? And we were just talking about Baker Mayfield. He's satisfactory, and Eli satisfactory. Like, really didn't stand out, but he did win more Super Bowl rings than his brother and his father. And
Peyton and Eli are tied 2-2.
Yes, they are. Damn, I forgot about the Broncos. Okay, but they tied up. But one is superior when it comes to skill.
Yes, when it comes to skill, Peyton was something else. He was a different quarterback than Eli was. But the one thing that, and I'm gonna kind of like be like, yeah, Eli won 2 Super Bowls, but he was always blessed with great defenses to help him win those Super Bowls.
Yes, he was. And
if he went to any other team but the Giants, I don't think this conversation is happening. I don't think Eli Manning gets 2 Super Bowls.
And the fact that he beat the GOAT, that right
Twice.
there is going to, that's going to, I mean, those are a recipe to get him in, unfortunately. And I just think we need to be ready and to embrace that, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you look outside of 2008 and 2011 or 2007 and 2011, every other season Eli Manning and the Giants made the playoffs, they didn't win a single game. They were a one and done outside of 2007 and 2011.
That is true. That's very true. And it's just like, man, it's just sometimes it's good to have that name recognition in your family. But it's rare to have those duos, and Bronny and LeBron are going to, of course, try to keep that rarity going in the right direction. But we will see, man. It's a lot of pressure on it. Now, a lot of media analysts, a lot of people in general, hell, I think even you all think that the Clippers, the Los Angeles Clippers, are the favorite to represent the Western Conference and go to the finals. And
of course, I have a reasoning behind this. So Kawhi most likely is coming back from injury. Assuming he doesn't get injured again and still plays at the same level like he always has, is even though he's always been coming off of injury, he always has a great next season. And of course, Paul George over those past 2 seasons has looked incredible. So if we get him playing at that same level, if we get Kawhi playing at that same level, I honestly don't have any qualms with the Clippers going on to represent the Western Conference in the finals. I think they can do it as long as as long as Kawhi and PG stay healthy. If Kawhi had been healthy during that 2021 Western Conference Finals, I think the Clippers would have easily won the 2021 championship. They could have definitely beaten the Bucks, and they probably would have beaten the Suns if Kawhi had been healthy.
But that's a big. It seems like it's a little ask, but it's a big ask to me because Kawhi. I can't recall the last time he played a full season. This
Yeah.
is not even including the load management, but he just doesn't seem like a dependable guy. So I would question that. I would.
Yeah, it's been, I believe, since 2016-17 that he played a full regular season, which, if you know what happened in that Western Conference Finals, Zaza Pachulia of the Warriors elbowed him, and that caused him to get an injury. That took him out for the remainder of that series, and that was in Game 1.
Yes, and that hurt them. That hurt them big.
Yeah.
And yes, okay. Well, let me ask you this: is it fair to say that you can't? Is Kawhi considered a number one? Right? Is he a focal point in the team?
Given how the Clippers are building, I'd say they believe so. Okay. I'd say they believe he's the guy to build around. And I don't know how to feel about it because he came into the league in a really good situation with the San Antonio Spurs, still having Tim Duncan, still having Tony Parker, still having Manu, constantly adding pieces. And that culminated in a ring in 2014. And then he gets traded to the Raptors, already in a good situation with with Kyle Lowry, with I don't know if they had him. They had Pascal Siakam at that point.
Yes.
They had all those guys, and that culminated in a ring. Yes, that was a really injury-filled postseason, and of course, Kawhi's shot against the Sixers had about a 0.2% chance of going in, and it just so happens that the luck of the draw hit in his favor.
Yeah, and that was one of the most iconic shots, too. He's just standing in the corner looking.
I watched that happen on TV, and as not only a Kawhi fan, but as a Raptors fan, I was nervous. I was like, is that going to go in? Please go in.
Yeah, luckily it did go in, but it just shows you how close those games is, man.
Oh yeah, like that could have easily whisked the momentum in the favor of the Sixers. And do the Sixers go on to win that final? I don't think so. I think the Warriors, even without Clay, even without Durant, would have still been too much.
Anytime, and I know this is starting to become the norm, but any basketball topic that we have on this show, we will be amiss if we didn't mention the Durant status.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why the Clippers' name haven't came up in this, because I honestly I think they will have the pieces to potentially get him to the Clippers. And I'm just curious to ask, because you are a avid fan of theirs, how you would feel if that was to happen.
I am not a big Durant guy. I never was. I was okay on him with OKC. Of course, I'm thinking okay, this guy is he's just another LeBron wannabe trying to, make a name for himself at the small forward position. And then he goes and does another thing that LeBron did, but in my opinion, his was worse, because LeBron went with two friends, one from Toronto, one who was, with the Raptors, and then one who was with the Heat. He went to go form a super team. Durant joined a super team. They had just gone 73-9. They were just in the finals. And he's like, if you can't beat them, join them.
Right.
So that moment forever made me a Kevin Durant hater. Because he couldn't win a ring on his own, so he decided to ring chase.
Oh, man. It's, he's and again, this big on the show. He is a good role player. He's not a one. He's a guy that he's specific, which is worried on scores. There's no denying that. But other stuff that comes with him is the mind earner out. I'm not happy, but I'm not going to say nothing. But I'm not like all of that propaganda that's going on currently with the Nets, and he wanted to potentially go. He had a name in spot 4.
Jay, you are frozen on my screen currently. I think we're having more technical difficulties. What he was saying about Kevin Durant, about him being a role player. Back when he was with Oklahoma City, back when he was with the Thunder, absolutely, he was their number one option. They built around him with Harden, with Westbrook, with Serge Ibaka, and they built around him, and then Harden left. But as soon as he joined Golden State, he lost that number one player status. Yes, he won the 2 Finals MVPs, which arguably should have gone to Steph Curry. You can argue that case, but then he goes to the Nets with Kyrie, and neither of those two are a number one option anymore.
That's true.
So then they bring in James Harden, who himself was having issues being the number one option. And those three just did not work out together.
That is true, my friend.
As for the Clippers going after him, they either are going to have to give up Kawhi Leonard or Paul George, and I don't think they want to give up either of those players.
It puts the Nets in a weird situation, basically, because they want so much, and no one's going to give them what they want, rightfully so. And then Durant's under contract for 4 more years, so they can. If it doesn't work
out, you're stuck with him for 4 years.
Yeah,
because no one else is going to want that contract.
That is true. That is true. Now, this show has went fast, rapidly fast, man. But we were able to get through the show, man. Do you have any final remarks or anything, any type of Therapy Thursday sessions that you may want to get off your chest today?
I actually do. AEW, why are you giving us a title unification bout in Cleveland on live television? Like, CM Punk versus Jon Moxley for the undisputed AEW World Championship should be a pay-per-view event, not one we're getting on a regular show episode, especially since, it's in Cleveland. Who wants to see a title fight in Cleveland?
That's a tough
You got
one.
anything? You got any Therapy Thursdays?
Yeah, I'm gonna have my. I usually come off left field with my therapy Thursday sessions, but it's something that's been bothering me for quite a while. Actually, really since I've been a kid, and it's two words in the Cleveland dictionary that I feel should be in the Webster, and everyone should utilize it, which is pop and a couch, right? And going down south, they refer to pop as soda.
Yep.
I don't like that name. And then the sofa, right? It's like it's a couch.
Oh.
So you always
Yeah,
have these
no. I always separate it this way. A sofa has 2 seats. A couch has 3 seats. And then I learned the word for a 2-seated couch is a love seat, and I just dropped the word sofa altogether.
Yeah.
Now, as for pop, as far as I know, only people in the Midwest, which is Cleveland, which is Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and parts of Michigan, call it pop. Everywhere else calls it soda or soda pop. And I don't know, I grew up calling it pop, so I'm going to continue calling it pop.
I'm going to call it pop too. I can strongly say that sports generals are in favor and approve of the word pop. Many leagues, as usual, approve of the word pop. And people, y'all just need to get on board with it, man.
Right.
But hey, man, it's been a wonderful show, man. We appreciate everyone that tuned in today. For those that's going to go on our YouTube page, again, that's the Sports Generals YouTube channel. I will have this up and running. I would say this weekend, have it edited so you guys could take a look at it. You could tune in to my website, which is Manalytics as usual. Seaboss, do you want to make any shameful plugs like I just did?
I'm gonna plug my channel. It is my YouTube channel is Seaboss Gaming. I just uploaded a stream on Sunday. Josh watched it of me attempting to do a welterweight career run as CM Punk in EA Sports UFC 4. As we all know, CM Punk did not have the best UFC career. He only lasted 2 fights in the promotion, and it was 0-1 or 0-1 with 1 no contest. So I'm trying to make it better for him.
Ouch. Well, hopefully are able to achieve that. Man.
Yeah. My second career fight was a 2-second knockout. Win.
Wow. Hey.
Literally the first punch.
A win is a win.
Yes.
A win is a win. But hey, man, again, it was a great show today, Mr. Seaboss.
Yeah.
We will be back next Thursday. Josh will
we will have Josh back for our AFC preview. We have a lot to talk about on that.
Yes, so make sure you guys tune in, be safe, and drink some water. Eat your vegetables.
Yes.
And say no to strangers.
And also, 8 hours of sleep at night. As someone who does not get enough sleep or gets too much sleep, 8 hours is perfect.
That's right. And with that, we would like to say thanks for tuning in.
Yes.
Peace, love, and y'all to the noobs.
Yep.
Good show, man.